Quite a shock last week, indeed. An online release of thousands of files showing a huge cover-up by the Boy Scouts of America. Those files detailed decades of sexual abuse, and attorney David Aylor, a man who will fight for your honor, is here on this trial Tuesday to break it all down for us. So, even cases in Charleston, but this was happening across the country, counsel.
Correct. It actually started from a case out west, and there was a civil suit, against the Boy Scouts, essentially claiming that back in the 80s, this certain individual as well as others were not protected. And they were not protected in regards to sexual abuse that occurred within their troop. What that led to was the release of records across the United States, including here locally, of records that the Boy Scouts had internally kept regarding complaints and alleged incidents with many young men.
Was that a Freedom of Information Act request, or how did that come out through the court system?
It came out through the discovery, and the courts actually decided that the records should be released, and they were able to get the records dating back decades related to this abuse. And the problem is that in a lot of these incidents, the abuse was never actually reported to the authorities. It wasn't a complete cover-up, but obviously there's allegations that there were many incidents where it was not reported properly.
And that's sad because, sometimes 50 years later now, these documents are coming out, and we've heard a lot in this case about the statute of limitations.
Yeah, and I was reading an interesting article just yesterday in Los Angeles Times relating to exactly that issue. Both on the civil side as well as the criminal side, each state is going to have their own statute of limitations issues that each case will have to deal with. And a lot of times, both criminally and civilly, it's a tough situation to deal with because so many of the people involved are either not around in the area anymore or have actually deceased. So it's pretty tough sometimes to put the cases together.
Yeah, why does that statute of limitation even exist in the first place? It seems to me like if you're guilty of a crime and we have some kind of proof or at least evidence, you should be able to be prosecuted. Well,
there's a lot of reasons for it, but as far as from a defense standpoint, essentially someone's defenses may be related to obviously time issues. Them, as much as a prosecution may have issues with trying to prove the case, an individual who's alleged to have done something, for instance, if he had witnesses that put him in a different location or can state other facts, if they've since been deceased as well or have since left the area where they can't be found, it really plays against the defense and then be able to protect the person's rights.
If memory serves me correctly, there were 2 or 3 cases related to the abuse here in Charleston County. That statute of limitations has also expired. What is the statute of limitations for sexual abuse in South Carolina?
Well, it depends on what you're looking at, both whether you're looking at it from the civil standpoint or the criminal standpoint. And what they're really going to do on each case is determine exactly what point that the statute of limitations will start. As far as when it was revealed and that sort of thing, is regarding sort of the scope of the time period that they would have been able to actually investigate and move forward with the case.
How about civilly? Can anyone go after these scout leaders or people that were linked to the scouts monetarily?
I think you're going to see that often. Now, whether they're going to be able to get real far with the cases will be interesting. And so each state, one, will have their own laws as far as that civil procedure, as we've talked about. But also beyond that, you're going to have to look at what the strength of these cases are. I think there will be some cases, clearly, where there's enough evidence that they can be able to show the duty that the Boy Scouts had, which they, failed to complete by turning them over to law enforcement, that sort of thing. However, there'll probably be a lot of cases that have some holes in it, unfortunately, because of the, age of the situation.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Attorney David Aylor, thank you so much for your time as always.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. We'll be right back with more Low Country Live after this.